Hey everyone, Trevor at Top Loaded Gaming. I realize I haven't done a video in a while, and part of that was due to the job I had at the time, and part of it was due to the fact that I decided to change game rooms. So I was effectively shut down for a little while, but now that's all done, and I thought I would start back by doing a game room video. So without further ado, so here it is, the game room. At the time of making this video, I'm using two TVs. My HD TV is a Sony Bravia, and I'm also using a Sanyo regular old CRT TV. I'm hoping in the future I can just do everything off of an HD TV. Let's start by taking a look at the top shelf. This is just some random things I've acquired, and I felt like I wanted to display them. One thing I'm going to highlight is on the right side of the shelf towards the end, you'll see a Virtual Boy Blockbuster rental case. And my buddy Marlon sent me that case a while back. Marlon is a friend of mine who has been collecting since 1988, if I remember correctly. And every once in a while, he sends me stuff that he no longer wants and feels like he can't sell on eBay for whatever reason. And he's just a really cool, generous guy. I've definitely acquired a lot of figures over the years. That Super Nintendo set is something I just got a couple weeks back. Rob the Robot I actually saved from the garbage from a neighbor. These SH Figuart figures are probably my favorite Mario figures out at the moment. This is a newer shelf I made, and just some random boxed games that I wanted to display. I've got Gradius 3, and I realize it's an R-type ship, but at the moment I don't have any Gashapon Gradius figures, but hopefully I can find some soon. Alright, let's take a look at what I have hooked up to the Sony Bravia. I've got the AVS, the NES Classic Mini, the Retron 5, the Xbox One, the PS4, the Wii U, a homebrewed Wii, as well as my home theater system, and what I couldn't fit was the PS3, the PS2, and the 360. My TV only has two HDMI inputs, so I had to get two separate HDMI selectors, and it's still not enough. I have been trying to locate gondola shelving for a long time, and finally the opportunity presented itself, and I absolutely love the way it turned out. Starting at the top, we have an NES top loader, an AV Famicom. Underneath it is a family disc system, followed by a Super Nintendo Junior, followed by a Super Famicom. On the next shelf, we have the Nintendo 64, GameCube with the Game Boy Advance player underneath it, a Sega Master System. On the next shelf, we have a Sega Genesis Model 2, a Sega Genesis Model 3, and a Sega Saturn. On the next shelf, we have a Sega Dreamcast and a PlayStation that is set up to do disc swapping so I can play Japanese import games. And on the bottom shelf, I have an Atari Jaguar and the original Xbox. The Jaguar is another thing that Marlon sent me, and he sent it to me a while back, and at the time he was telling me, look, I'm sending you this stuff, this and this, whatever. I didn't know how expensive, how much these systems go for, and just the generosity level. I just feel really appreciative. Fucking Marlon rocks big time. And for the first time in my life, I have a TurboGrafx 16. You know, Bithead 1000, you know, he kind of influenced me and made it seem plausible. It was a system I thought it was too expensive to collect for, but he really influenced me to get out there and try and check out some parallax scrolling, so I cannot wait to jump in headfirst into this TurboGrafx 16 and the PC Engine's game library, especially for shooters. And in case you're wondering, this is the size container I needed to house all the controllers to go along with all these consoles. I also had to use 3 different AV selection boxes to be able to hook up all of these systems to this one TV. The 2 digital Radio Shack boxes I have are great. The third box I have is analog, and I've had RCA, Radio Shack, I've had a few different brands, and I feel like they all go out. After a while, it starts darkening the picture. If you can get a picture at all, I would stay away from these. I have quite a few different sprites I chose, both me and my wife, and we made pixel art. Maybe in the future I'll do a video showing how really easy it is. It's not something really hard to do or anything, but maybe I'll devote a video to it in the future. That NES Classic box and the controller box is not actually a duplicate box that I have. It's actually promo boxes that a buddy from GameStop gave me. Just a little shelf I made showcasing a lot of the Mario Kart things I have. I wasn't always a Mario Kart fan, but very recently I started playing Mario Kart 7 and I just fell in love with Mario Kart. This next shelf is where I keep most of my handheld stuff. I like taking old Nintendo Store shelf boxes and repurposing them. I wasn't able to get much from Club Nintendo while they were running it, but I'm glad I was able to get this little controller container. And this is where I edit all my videos. I use mostly Sony Vegas. One cool little thing I want to point out is these little Pixel Pals. The only ones I wanted were the Mega Man and the Mario, but they're already coming out with a new set of them. This little display that's housing all my Game Gear games I recently found at a flea market for maybe 20 bucks. I cleaned it up, repainted it, and I find you can repurpose a lot of old displays like this if you keep an eye out for them. Now here's something I'm excited to talk about. Since the last time I made a video, Marlon sent me his entire collection of Nintendo Powers. His entire collection. We're not just talking about, issues that didn't really mean anything to him. I mean, there is literally issues that have his name and address on it that he was subscribed to Nintendo Power at the time. So a lot of them are his childhood issues. I mean, that's awesome. He sent me 138 issues in all. I'm well on my way to a complete collection. I still have a lot to go, but I'm more than halfway there. I've also got some strategy guides and Game Informer magazines. And it really doesn't fit the theme well, but who gives a shit? I got a few graphic novels, The Watchmen, Walking Dead, a few Batman, like The Long Halloween, Hush, The Dark Knight. Next shelf I have a few code books, as well as a DS and 3DS binder I made, a CD binder. On the last shelf I have a lot of my arcade sticks. Now, I can't remember the YouTuber's name because he stopped making videos. In one of his videos I watched, he had a really good tip on finding old Zippo cases and displays because they fit Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games really well. And not long after I watched his video, there was a gas station that I kept going to. One thing about this gas station was for years and years and years they had been selling Zippo lighters. And this owner goes all out on his Zippo stuff. You walk in there and it's just display case after display case. So I just went talked to him and I asked him if he had any old Zippo cases that maybe he ended up with over the years. And this guy, he didn't even tell me anything. Like, he just says, like, I'll be right back. I didn't know what he was doing, for sure. He didn't tell me shit. And he comes back wheeling this cart, and on top of the cart was this Zippo display. And he's like, I'm not sure if it works or anything like that. And we plugged it up, and sure enough, it lighted up. And it still spun. So then we started talking money, and he was like 40 bucks. And I thought that was really acceptable. I didn't even try to haggle him down because on eBay, some of these sell between $300 and $700. So I was happy to take it off his hands for 40 bucks. I would say just if you're trying to find one of these, I would say to try and find they have 60 and I want to say they have 96 count display cases as well. Try to find the biggest one you can if you have the choice. I started collecting these Hot Wheels. Initially it was just the mock NES cover art ones that I was getting. And at the moment I'm only missing Super Mario Bros. 2. It's the only one I wasn't able to find. But as of me posting this video, it's still pretty cheap, so I can get it off of eBay anytime I want, so I'm not really that worried about it. I had a bitch of a time tracking down these Jakks Pacific figures, the not the Walmart ones, they package them differently, and I still can't find the green link. When the NES Classic Mini came out, I decided to get the book. It's kind of a crappy quality as far as the images go. I was really surprised by that. One thing I'm excited to own is the 25th anniversary Wii. I really love the way it looks. I love the way the box looks. It's definitely a great addition to my collection in my opinion. Now this was actually a dumpster find. I found this Mario bundle box in a dumpster and I already had a black Wii, so I just displayed it together and I think it looks pretty cool. I really love this amiibo stand. I saw it once and I just had to have it. I really like the look of the Nintendo Selects marketing that Nintendo came out with. And I'm kind of using the extra cases I have as sort of like a makeshift way to leave your family notes, or if you need to leave one of your kids money or something. Alright, we're here at the game shelf, and I know I've mentioned it before, but I'm going to talk about it again. I got the idea for this shelf from YouTube user Ed T1138. As far as I know, he came up with this this concept, at least in the gaming community, to build a really cheap, easy game shelf. And all it is 2x4s nailed against the wall and 1x2s nailed against the 2x4s. It's a really simple concept. And then what I did on top of that, I really, I kind of wanted to paint the shelf, but honestly, I kept feeling like a lot of the paint would rub off and get all over the games. So I was kind of hesitant against doing that. But through dumpster diving and having decent connections at GameStop and Toys R Us and different places, I was able to get not only quite a few of the marketing banners, but I was also able to get a ton of the plastic banner holders. So what I did was I screwed those down to the faces of the 1x2s, and then I put all the banners in place. And I think it makes it look a lot better. So I'm just going to name off a few of my favorite games I have. For the PlayStation 2, I would have to say Gradius 5 is absolutely my favorite. For the PS3, my favorite franchise is Uncharted. My favorite of that is Uncharted 3. I think that's the best one. Even including Uncharted 4, I think Uncharted 3 was the best. For the PS4, recently I've been getting into limited run games, and I really like Shadow Complex. I was ecstatic that I was able to get finally a physical copy for that game. For the PSP, recently I was able to get with my buddy Vinny. He runs a channel called 8-Bit Nintendo. I was able to get Gradius Collection. And as I mentioned time and time again, Gradius is my favorite franchise of all time. So for the PS Vita, I got Sodner X2, which is another limited run game release. And it's a shooter, so it's right up my alley. For the Game Boy Color, I got Shantae a while back, and that is a really good game. It's really well done. For the original Game Boy, I really like Super Mario Land. I'm really simple like that, I guess. I also like R-Type, as well as Metroid 2. For the Game Boy Advance, I really love the Castlevania Metroidvania games, as well as Metroid Fusion and Metroid Zero Mission. Metroid Zero Mission is probably my favorite Metroid game of all time. For the NES, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is my favorite game. I absolutely love that I was able to get the box for this game. But I also like Power Blade, Darkwing Duck, the Mega Man games. I really like King's Knight. It's a really good shooter for the NES. I recently got the Aladdin Deck Enhancer, and both of these were sealed, brand new, never used before. I got sent two of them because the first one didn't work, and now the second one doesn't work. Maybe I'll send one for Open Cart Surgery to Rig Games. I can't figure out why it's not working. I love the Ninja Gaiden games. I obsess over beating those games. I've beaten 1 and 2. I just have 3 left to beat. Super Nintendo, of course, Super Metroid, Contra 3, Gradius 3, R-Type, R-Type Third Lightning, Axley, Cybernator, Turtles in Time. For the Sega, obviously I like Sonic, but I really like the Maximum Carnage game on the Genesis especially. The Genesis has a really good version of Aladdin. Really like that game. Thunder Force 3. I mean, the Thunder Force series is amazing in general. Forgotten Worlds, X-Men 2 Clone Wars. For the PlayStation, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I mean, that is just gotta be my favorite game for the PS1. Metal Gear Solid, Gradius Gaiden, or Types. I'm not the biggest fan of the 64, but I do like Mario Kart 64, Super Mario 64, GoldenEye, the THQ wrestling games, as well as Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. For the DS, Contra 4, the Castlevania games, New Super Mario Bros., Mario Kart DS, Yoshi's Island DS. For the 3DS, I like playing Shovel Knight, Donkey Kong Country Returns, New Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario 3D Land, Yoshi's New Island, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, Kid Icarus, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. For the Sega Saturn, Parodius Deluxe Pack, the Salamander Deluxe Pack, the Gradius Deluxe Pack, the Konami Antiques MSX Collection, Thunder Force 5, the Thunder Force Gold Packs 1 and 2, for the Sega Dreamcast, Triggerheart Excelica, Border Down, Ikaruga, Trizeal, Chaos Field, Shikigami no Shiro 2, and Sturmwind. Well, that's going to do it for me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. This is Trevor at Top Loaded Gaming. See you next time.